At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton.
Hey folks, welcome to the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. I'm Corey Seidman, he's Jim Salisbury. Unfortunately, I forgot to hit record when we just sat down to begin this podcast, so there's about a 20-minute Phillies Talk podcast somewhere in the ether that nobody's ever going to hear, but man, it was our best work yet. Jim is over in Clearwater, Florida, where Zack Wheeler hung back and pitched in his first outing of the spring. I'm over in Dunedin, where the Phillies took on the Blue Jays and had their game cut short when the skies opened. It was torrential rain. But Jim, the big story, the big news throughout camp in the Phillies rotation has dealt with Zack Wheeler, his readiness for the season. There was a last-minute change of plans for Wheeler on Saturday.
Yes, he was supposed to pitch in that game in Dunedin, his first Grapefruit League action of the spring, and an important day. Like objective number one here in Phillies camp on Saturday was to get him on a mound, get him facing some hitters. And they had to kind of outsmart the weather a little bit. They saw the storm coming in, so with a 1 o'clock game over in Dunedin and it looked like it was going to be bad weather, they moved Zack Wheeler up to an inter-squad game here in Clearwater about 11:30. So he got 2+ innings in over here, hit around a little bit, was not supported by defense. There was A-ball players on the field. There were a couple ragged plays that led to some base runners. But, all in all, he came out of it healthy. He was pleased with the way his slider felt. He said, that's sort of a pitch that you need to really build a feel for. And he says when he feels good with that, he kind of gauges everything as in a good place. And so he'll pitch again on Thursday, once again against minor league hitters. Very unusual spring for him in that, they were going to go slow with him anyway because he led the majors in innings last year, 213 in the third innings. Then he got a little bit of a flu. So that all pushed him back a little bit, but now he's completed his, side session, his bullpen work, his live batting practice. He's gotten into a game. He'll get into another game, and then he'll pitch against the Mets on the 12th of April. That is game 5. Ordinarily, coming off a year like he had last year, and he led the National League in strikeouts and was second in Cy Young voting. I mean, he is their ace. He would have been the opening day starter, but because of the unusual spring with him being behind, he's going to be, open up in that 5 slot. But that's no problem. So it's unusual for a pitcher to go into the season not facing hitters in a Grapefruit League game. But it's they're gonna have the hand they've been dealt, and they wouldn't put him out there if they didn't feel he's healthy. So he's completed all his progressions. One more quote unquote minor league outing, and then he'll face the Mets. It's not altogether. It's unusual for a pitcher to go into a season without facing hitters in a Grapefruit League game, but not, completely unheard of. I've been around long enough to remember when Curt Schilling did the bulk of his work one spring, maybe 2 springs over at the minor league complex in minor league games, because, the schedule was lining up that he was going to face the Braves twice, I think the Blue Jays once back, and he was going to face the Braves obviously in regular season games and the Blue Jays in a interleague game, and then there may have been another team, the Red Sox, maybe in an interleague game. He didn't want to tip his hand to them, so he did all his work over at the minor league complex. As long as a veteran pitcher's coming out healthy, they know when the ball feels good and crisp coming out of their hand. I think we'll look back at this spring as not a big deal for Zack Wheeler in terms of his preparation. As long as he's healthy, and he says he's healthy, the metrics say he's healthy. So it'll be game on for him on the 12th of April at Citizens Bank Park against his former team, the Mets.
Yeah, obviously there's a difference between facing single-A players and facing this lineup that the Phillies took on for 5 innings Saturday. The Blue Jays, who had Bo Bichette and Vladdy Guerrero and George Springer, all their big guns in the lineup. The Phillies also brought to Dunedin a representative lineup with Harper, Schwarber, Castellanos, and they did their thing in the first inning against Jose Barrios. Schwarber led off with a walk. Harper doubled, and Castellanos drove him in with a 2-run single. So in that regard, good sign out against a good pitcher who was also prepping for the regular season. Jim, referencing Zack Wheeler's innings total last year, he led the majors in innings, he led the majors in batters faced, he led by far in pitches thrown, and we're being reminded right now the fragility of pitching when you look at the situation going on with the New York Mets, who built their team this offseason around Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, and now deGrom's been shut down for at least 4 weeks with an issue in his right shoulder. Scherzer was supposed to start on Saturday, had that start scratched, and he could not commit to being ready for opening day as he deals with a minor hamstring tweak. So, man, that's $79 million worth of payroll that the Mets are probably not going to have in the beginning of the season, out of the gate. And that impacts the Phillies directly because the Phillies' second series was against those Mets. And the way the schedule lined up, they were slated to face both deGrom and Scherzer.
You're right. $79 million and 5 Cy Youngs. And deGrom ended last year with elbow issues. Now he's got the scapula issue. And the way they're phrasing it is shut down for 4 weeks. And when you shut a guy down for 4 weeks, that usually means he's not doing any throwing for 4 weeks. And kind of the rule of thumb is for every week you're down, you need that same amount of time to build up. So you're looking at this guy being down, the way I see it, is for 2 months, if all goes well. So that's a big blow to the Mets. And that it's going to affect the National League race, a National League East race, I would say, because you remember we did that feature a few years ago, who are the most impactful players in the who is the most impactful player in the National League East? We had some interesting answers, Soto, and you weighed in, Ricky Bo weighed in, a bunch of people did, and I actually picked Scherzer because deGrom. I'm sorry about that. I picked Jacob deGrom because I just, he's a guy that just took the ball every 5th day and absolutely dominated. I thought he was an incredible game changer. So you take him out for 2 months, and that's going to have a big effect on the National League race and the National League East division. And, that directly, like you said, impacts the Phillies because they go head-to-head with the Mets so many times. And actually, Zack Wheeler talked a little bit about that today. They're close. They have very similar pitching styles, in my opinion. Old friends, old teammates, and he said he was sad to hear that his buddy had gone down. He hopes he gets healthy real quick, but he acknowledged that it affects other teams in a positive because you don't have to face the guy. So as a baseball fan, I hope he gets back quick because I like watching him pitch, like watching him throw that what is it? The glove side, fastball, glove side, slider. It's just so dominant. But it potentially is a race changer in the NL East and something the Phillies could benefit from because you don't see that guy.
Yeah, and he was performing well in spring training. The velocity was in the high 90s. I think he allowed 1 run in 10 innings to deGrom. It's going to be a lot different for teams heading into a series against the Mets. Instead of thinking you're facing deGrom and Scherzer, you might be facing like David Peterson and Jordan Yamamoto. So it's a little different. Chris Bassett, who they acquired from the A's last month, they got him to be like their number 3 starter. Now he might have to be their ace early in the season. So things can change very quickly. Jim, another guy who pitched along with Wheeler in that intra-squad game Saturday back in Clearwater was Sir Anthony Dominguez, who Joe Girardi referred to as maybe the most pleasant surprise of Phillies camp so far. To you, does he look like the guy he was in 2018? I know we're talking spring training. I'm not specifically referring to results. I'm more so talking about stuff.
He might be a tick down from where he was when he really kind of took the Phillies by storm his rookie year and was a standout reliever in the National League. But it's coming. I mean, he's still, I think he's been up to 97. That's high 90s, shown that, that Sir Anthony slider, and he's actually mixed in a changeup that's looked really good at times. So I would say he's been the surprise of spring. And he could be a huge X factor out in that bullpen because we all know how good he was for a short amount of time there, his rookie season. Well, throughout his rookie season, then he got hurt second year. And if you can get him back, throwing power, using that slider, showing that changeup a little bit, working his way eventually toward maybe the 8th inning or even in the 9th inning, depending on what's happening down there. I mean, you hope Knebel is that guy, but he would be a really nice addition to the bridge work to Knebel. I wouldn't throw him in the 8th inning right away. I think keep him a little bit less pressurized as he continues to build and come back from Tommy John surgery. But, it was a long recovery, a long time down with that injury. Didn't have the surgery right away. COVID pushed things back. But there's always that doubt in a pitcher's mind if he's going to be that guy again. And with each successful outing and each time that his arm strength is looking so good, I think Sir Anthony gets more and more confident. It feels like he can be that guy again that he was. What I see is everything's positive. Everything's trending in the right direction. But you got to see it on a big league field, in a big league game with the bright lights, the big city, the third deck, the intensity in both dugouts. You got to see it then. Spring training is still essentially practice, and though everything looks good, you want to see it in the game, and you want to see it for more than an outing, more than a week, more than a month before you can really pronounce somebody as back. But I'll tell you what, things are looking good at this stage of the game as they ramp up for the 2022 season.
Yeah, Sir Anthony Dominguez is a major X factor in the Phillies bullpen. He was even before the injury to Sam Coonrod and the situation that Connor Brogdon finds himself in. Brogdon has struggled for most of spring. Now he's dealing with an illness. Joe Girardi doesn't seem sure that Brogdon's going to be on the opening day roster. So with those two guys potentially off the opening day roster and Jose Alvarado, who hasn't pitched in a game yet either, Dominguez just becomes even more important for the Phillies early in the season, especially because starters aren't going to be going deep into games early in the season. This is really going to test teams' middle relief, like how good is the reliever you can bring in the 5th, 6th inning. That could determine some early season series. Yeah,
the Phillies could be going short, having abbreviated outings with 3 guys. Eflin, Ranger Suarez, and Wheeler all were a little bit behind in camp. All have been, shown encouraging signs when they've pitched. But, they're probably, probably top out in those middle innings. And, even maybe, a tad earlier, depending on their pitch count. So guys like Bailey Falter, Nick Nelson, Christopher Sanchez become important as piggyback guys as those 3 pitchers continue their buildup in regular season games.
I guess I kind of buried the lead here not mentioning that tomorrow Jim and I are going to be doing our live podcast from Clearwater. We're going to be right by Frenchie's in left field. Hope that if you're in Clearwater and you're at the game, you hang around afterwards, do a little Q&A. We might have some guests. It's going to be a good time. I guess the biggest topic remaining now, Jim, is that third base competition. Are you surprised it hasn't been settled by now?
Yes and no. I think they want to let it ride to the end. Bohm has been working on some adjustments at the plate and actually swung it really good Friday down in Sarasota. So maybe they just want to kind of gauge that a little bit more. But it's, when you got a guy working on an adjustment, as he is, trying to shorten his stride under the tutelage of Kevin Long, it's just hard to see it's hard for me to see them carrying him when he sort of hasn't completed his work on that adjustment. It's sort of an ongoing process, work in progress. I just don't think you necessarily work on an adjustment at the big league level. So to me, it makes sense to send him to AAA, let him continue to work on that, let him get going, let him start swinging it good, let him start building some confidence so he's in a good position or a good place when you need him. Bryson Stott, to me, has looked good in spring training. They say they're not going to manipulate his service time. They're not worried about his service time, not worried about starting his clock. Okay, well, if that's the case, he's been one of the best position players here. I think you bring him and play him at third base. This is a win now season for this team. But I'm not sure what they're going to do there. If I'm surprised, I guess maybe I'm surprised that they maybe didn't make your decision and send one of them out, 3, 4, 5 days ago so they could get work with their minor league team. So the guy who's here can breathe a little bit, settle in, and feel like he's the guy, and maybe relax a little bit, just feel comfortable, because you got to feel comfortable to play well. But that's their choice. Joe has said they might ride it down to Wednesday, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him make a decision tomorrow. I just don't know where it's going to go. He has at least brought up the idea of carrying both guys. That's hard for me to envision. I'm not saying it won't happen. Maybe they're smarter than me. But, you got a guy working on an adjustment, and you got two guys, 24 and 25 years old, who are ascending players who both have talent. I don't think you take one of them and sit them on a bench and make him a reserve. I think you send one of them to AAA and let him go play every day, and let the other guy play here every day. So we'll see when that decision is coming. Just my observations, all signs point to Stott, but I mean, you never know. They make decisions over there for a lot of reasons, and when they make it, I'm sure they'll articulate their reasons. But we're getting down to nitty gritty time.
Yeah, we sure are. And if there's any news on Alec Bohm or the third base situation tomorrow afternoon, you'll hear it right here on the Phillies Talk podcast one last time. We're going to be live in Clearwater at Baycare Ballpark, right near Frenchie's, hanging out after the game. Should be a really good time. I know Jim's looking forward to it. So thanks for listening on this Saturday afternoon. We'll catch you tomorrow.